1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. On a Wednesday morning, Stanley Chepaitis is with us, Chuck Olsen as well, as we talk music with these two gentlemen and know a thing or two on that topic. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you both with us.
It's
our
good to be here.
conversation. Brought to you by Marcus and Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Stanley, you got in touch with me and said you've got a concert coming up this weekend.
This Saturday evening at 7:30 at the theater.
Wow. So what's going
on? We have formed a new chamber orchestra based here in Indiana and comprised of 12 string playing musicians who are, most of whom have a connection one way or another to Indiana. They're born here, they studied here, they work here in the area. And we're going to do a range of music from, composers of a couple centuries ago to music that's written basically last month by myself. The pieces are going to, run the gamut from classical and Baroque style to my piece, which is based on modern jazz, and it's going to have some improv and electric guitar and that kind of stuff mixed in with the strings.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting concert, and hope everybody can come out to hear it.
Second, strings with electric guitar. Isn't that against the law, Chuck?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe the laws of gravity, but
in the search for sounds, all rules are meant to be broken.
The mix of music that Stanley describes, the variety, sounds like it's fascinating. It sounds like it would be really difficult to pick out pieces, too, with that big of a range.
Well, it's sort of like writing a play. You put together your list, and it has its own culture, of how it moves, how its tempo moves, where the surprises are, where it calms down. I think it's really interesting to consider how musicians organize themselves to present a concert.
I was just thinking of that very thought, that particularly with this, it's probably very exciting, number one, and to control the flow of an evening that way. But at the same time, you really get to broaden what people might think of as what a concert is.
As string players, we have 400 years of just incredible tradition of music that was written. And nowadays, we tend to think of those dead composers as sort of museum pieces, but to us as musicians, they're all still alive through the music that they left us. And I treat each piece as a living entity, whether it was written 3 centuries ago or yesterday, and it's always been one of my main missions to get this music out there and present it to people in a way that, 21st century ears can hear and understand and really participate and enjoy it. And that's what we're going to try to do.
So describe some of the pieces that we're going to be hearing on Saturday.
Well, you're going to hear music that you've probably heard, thousands of times on movies, on TV commercials, and never knew what it was. One of the most iconic pieces by Mozart is called Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which really means a little night music, which might, stir a little memory about a Broadway play that was done based on that title. I'm absolutely sure that people who have no idea what that is are going to hear the first 4 notes and say, I know that. We're going to do, because, Vivaldi wrote these wonderful pieces called the Four Seasons, which are descriptive of all the events and sounds of the seasons. Obviously, we chose to do winter this time because of the timing. And once again, I think people might not know by title, by name, or who Vivaldi was, but when they hear it, they're going to go, I know that.
The ear knows these
The
things.
ear knows it, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a piece of mine, which, it's kind of hard to describe the composing process involved with this. I've lived for a good part of my career, kind of a weird double life of being a classical musician and teacher by day and a jazz musician at night. It's like speaking different languages, and actually feel different. I feel like a different person when I'm playing one type of music or the other. And I think the arc of my career has been an effort to bring those things together.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do in this piece. So it's a question of taking a little melody that I heard somewhere and just remembered it, kept replaying it in my head, wasn't even quite sure what it was, and evolving that through just intense, quiet listening, into its own kind of piece that could accommodate a pretty, calm winter portrait, and then move into a section of jazz improvisation with the strings backing up, and we have a bass player who can lay down those bass lines, and it works. It moves back and forth between these two worlds. So, and it's called Winter Dream.
Chuck, when you have a brand new piece like this that nobody's ever played before, and you get your first chance to look at it and to hear it in your head, it probably sounds different from how Stanley envisions it or hears it in his head. Tell me about this piece and getting a chance to work on it.
Well, I'm not involved with the musicians. I'm involved with the theater, and I'm a visual artist and not a musician. Certainly not like Stanley, but I play a little bit. And I think the thing to understand, and I want to go back to something that Stanley had mentioned in this, is that 400 years of string music. I think the audience also has to recognize that the arts, the function of the arts, visual arts like mine or music like Stanley, it is that we accumulate. It accumulates everything. There's no shelf life on the arts. So what does the pieces selected for the Philly Streets strings? What do those pieces have to offer us today? Science is different. Science works in the present it rejects its past to work in the present to improve our futures. But the arts are different. The arts accumulate everything. And you need a place for that accumulation to be brought out. And that's the importance of the Indiana Theater and this concert that's coming up, is that Indiana is unique in that it has a place for these things to touch down and to be presented to the public and a whole range of things. And when an audience goes to hear this and hear some of these pieces, what do you do with that? How do you come out of this? I mean, I think the spectators and the musicians are allies in this, and those spectators can teach you something about what you're doing as a musician, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think that's really true. Since I retired from the teaching post that I had at IUP, that I came here in the early 1990s to accept and to live here, I've noticed such a revitalization of downtown Indiana. I mean, it's incredible now, the things that we have that we didn't have those 30 years ago. All the different types of restaurants and cuisine, the coffee shops, the art galleries. We now have a jazz festival. We have a North Appalachian Folk Festival. We have a playhouse, and the Indiana Theater's being revitalized. And Chuck has been really spearheading starting this concert. And I've gone to and actually played on some of the previous concerts. It's been a lot of fun and great audiences, just fabulous audiences. And
I think the thing that the musicians that have come from Pittsburgh and Washington, D.C. and on a tighter orbit to Indiana have all said that you have a unique room here in Indiana. You have a 300-seat listening room because everyone listens. You have no screens. You have no monitors. You don't have a glorified bar stage scene like you see all over the place, especially in Pittsburgh. And so coming to Indiana is, I think, your listeners and the folks here need to understand that we have something unique here. It's not something that is sort of a third-class kind of place. It is the musicians want to come back. Billy Price is coming back on the 23rd of February. After his first concert here a year ago, he said to me, Chuck, promise me one thing. Can I play in Indiana every year for the years I got left?
Wow. How about that?
So
yeah.
So of course, and he's coming back, and this is, maybe this surprises folks, but it's bona fide what we have.
And I think, going back to the question that you asked Todd a few minutes ago, as to what is it that audiences take from that? And I think that, whether what they're hearing is, a 250-year-old piece by Vivaldi, or Delta Blues, or the Clarks, or whatever it is, they come away with an appreciation for how we connect as human beings, across the canyon of different stylistic, or cultural realities, and across the centuries in between, that we recognize that, that music that's still alive and that can speak to us wherever it comes from connects us as human beings. And to me, that's the real importance.
Only a couple of moments left this morning with Stanley Chepaitis and Chuck Olsen. Stanley, the group itself, tell me about them.
Well, it's myself and my wife, Svana has been kind of the spearhead. We got the idea to do this a couple of years ago, and then we were thwarted by a resurgence of COVID. We had a concert all set up, and
it tends to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we're finally getting to it now. The musicians are a number of my former students who are now living, working, practicing their art in the area. Some actual, born in Indiana people who also worked with me at the university. Colleagues of mine from the university, our new, my replacement, our new violin teacher, Flory Marshall, is playing viola with us. Linda Jennings, who still teaches the cello at the university, is playing with us. My good friend Carl Rakonen, who some people have seen me playing with in a band called Grist for the Mill. He plays bass there, but he's joining us on the viola. And so it's a real kind of Indiana-centered group, and we all agreed, to come together, and because we have a great time playing the music, a great time just being at rehearsal and joking around, and we want to bring that energy to the public.
Sounds like a fantastic night coming Saturday to the Indiana Theater. Tickets at the door, or tickets
at the door,
ahead of time?
tickets online.
Also at the Book Nook, you can buy tickets at the Book Nook.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, thanks for coming in.
Thanks
for spending some time with us here this morning. It's happening on Saturday at the Indiana Theater. Showtime?
7:30.
7:30.
Doors at 6:30.
It's Indiana in the morning. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com.